In today's episode, the Austin A40. Hello and welcome back to Course Light, your car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and sometimes beyond those years as well. So what we're looking at today, the Austin A40, as we discovered at the top of the show. Very unusual, very small brochure this one, which was the reason I've chosen it, just because of its unusual dimensions very early on in the Austin A40 life. If any of that might interest you, have a look at the episode and then certainly consider subscribing. It is all free. Anyway, let's move our camera around and have a look at this brochure. So here is the rather lovely Austin A40 brochure. I love how they've kind of like stylized the A on this and put in the center, here is your Austin, and then the A of A40. Quite like that, looks pretty nice. So I'm no expert on cars of this particular era, but I'm going to say this is a Mark 1 Austin A40. And of course Farina, we've looked at many different Farina cars. Pininfarina is one of my favourite designers, which is one of the reasons I like to feature them. Really love the front end of these, and then they kind of like updated them with a different grille and a longer wheelbase later on, and the front end of the Mark II looks more like things like the Austin Cambridge. But yeah, the reason why I picked this is because it's such a huge brochure. Look how big it is. Well, actually no, it's absolutely tiny. If I just scale the camera back again, look how small that brochure is. We've looked at the A40 before actually. This is when it came out, the brand new sparkling A40, but you know, that's a normal brochure size compared to the brochure we're looking at today. We've got a visit from Midnight. Let me just move her. Apologies for that. Yes, look how small this brochure is. I think it's from a similar sort of era actually, because it does keep saying the word new in it, and this is like the introduction brochure. I wonder if this was kind of like a throwaway brochure or leaflet type brochure at the same time. It does fold out, so it does look bigger when you open it out, but yeah, it's amazing how these things survive. So we're probably going to say this is from late 50s, maybe like 58, I'm going to assume. No date on it, unfortunately. The other Austin A40 brochure we've looked at before is this from the US. The Austin A40, the gayest economy sedan ever. At a simpler time, of course, but this again was quite an early one. This one's from around about 1960. And amazing that they sold them in the US, considering how absolutely tiny they were. Anyway, let's concentrate on this brochure today. So first things first, we should open it up. So we do find with these brochures from this time period, sort of late 50s, early 60s, well, quite a long way through the 60s actually, they're all drawn, and this is similar. All the pictures of the cars are drawings from some very talented artist that's unfortunately their name has disappeared. The other thing about these brochures is they do open unusually, and this is possibly the most unusual of the opening ones. So it opens like this first, kind of like giving you headings of new space, new styling, new driving ease, new colours. You're nearer the future in an Austin A40, and at the bottom of here, I don't know if you can quite see it, new comfort, new power. But anyway, it then kind of like opens up like so, rather nicely, to give you this sort of full page. So I'm going to have to set this up properly so I don't have to hold it while I'm talking, and then we'll start at the top where it says new space and work our way around. So like we spied, the first category there is new space, where it's showing just like the boot or trunk area. Also looks like the seats are folded down, making this clever little design for the time period, of course. Or it also gives us a look at this sort of Farina, typical Farina design of trying to do these sort of like fins even on this particular design. So quite nice little design overall. So here it's talking about the luggage. So luggage galore. The luggage compartment on the Austin A40 is big by any standard. It takes 11.5 cubic feet of luggage, say 4 average suitcases. But we went one further and made the rear seat, which folds flat, to give you 18.75 cubic feet. Sales representatives, please note. So they are trying to kind of advertise it as sort of like a salesman's car. It's a clever design really, because from the outside it doesn't look like it would actually fit that much luggage in there. And then on the opposite side there, new driving ease, we get this rather lovely drawn image of those seats, which, you know, the drawings do make the seats look rather nicer than they probably are actually. We can also note the accelerator pedal is tiny, isn't it? And there's a very spindly gear lever. One thing to note on these brochures from this time period, you often find that there is a bit of artists' interpretation of the cars, shall we say, where they kind of make them look nicer than what they really are quite often. I think this is quite a good example here. I mean, it looks like a really wide car in the drawing. Anyway, so the category for new driving ease, it tells us right where you want them. The centrally mounted gear lever is ideally placed for fast changing, at a time when a lot of cars would have been column change, of course. It gives firm, positive action. No unnecessary linkage is involved. Handbrake too is mounted on the left, where it is easily and quickly accessible. I don't think it shows the oh yeah, it does there. So the handbrake, it's saying, oh, amazing, it's in the middle there, kind of like a common place to put it later on, of course. But anyway, moving on. And then moving on means going down that sheet. We get an image of the door showing the door cards. A lot of paint showing, as you would imagine, but nice to see a quarter light. The era of quarter light, so we can't really complain too much about this era. In fact, I quite like them. Wide doors. No small car ever had doors like these. Over 3 feet wide, they open to a full 90 degrees. No more crawling in and out. So nice doors there for a small car for its time. And then room and a view. Individual seats make for maximum comfort in the spacious front. The panoramic windscreen and sloping line of the bonnet give a landscape view of the road. Latest safety precautions include a padded rim to the fascia. Instruments are mounted in a binnacle in front of the driver, where they are seen at a glance. And then we have a nice little image, and beautifully drawn once again, of the dashboard. Unusual colour combination though, isn't it? Like a pale green with a red trim around it. Very unusual. Very plain though, of course, but I think there's something about that very plain interior and a metal dash that I actually quite like. Moving on. So right at the bottom of the page it tells us about new styling and new colours, and rather beautiful little drawing of the A40 as well. We'll start here with the description for the styling, where it tells us, at last, here's a car that looks stylishly ahead of any other car on the road, but there's sound sense in every lovely line of the new A40. Take that long swept roofline. That's what gives so much room for passengers and luggage. Take that handsome wide door. Never was a car so easy to get in and out of. Take that deep curved windscreen. You are assured of the widest possible view ahead. New to the last graceful line, the A40 is destined to become a classic amongst modern lines. Interesting that it's kind of like referring to this little A40 being a classic even back then. Unusual little final line. And then we got this lovely image, of course. Talented artist, like I've said. Certain angles were probably not exactly right for it. I mean, some of the styling is a bit questionable when we look at these older brochures and drawings in them, because they're not scale drawings, of course. But a lovely colour as well, actually, for the time period. I think this particular colour would have been horizon blue. But let's move on to the colours. Let's have a look at those. It tells us new colours. There's a completely new range of colours for the A40, picked to give it still more beauty. And then we have this kind of like rough idea of the colours to one side. So tartan red, ocean blue, Sutherland green, which we looked at the Austin Cambridge in Sutherland green, which was a nice colour. And like I say, there's this horizon blue, farina grey and black. So obviously other Austins were using these colours as well. Like I said this colour was probably horizon blue, which would have been this one, but maybe it was ocean blue. Very hard to tell from the picture, but maybe that was ocean blue now looking at it again. And if I just move the camera down, there's your depiction of farina grey and black. Of course, farina grey and black was quite a common colours for this sort of time period. And then if I flip this paper the opposite way around and turn it around, if I can, one-handed, it kind of like continues on the next page. So let's continue on that page as well. The top left hand corner, it's telling us you're nearer the future in an Austin 40. We get this is your car, the Austin, and that A40 style badge, and then a bit of a description. The A40 is a completely new design, right down to the A on the bonnet. New not for the sake of novelty, but to give you the nearest approach to perfection in a small car. Every detail on the brilliant car is designed to give better motoring. The wide doors, the long graceful profile, the clever new luggage compartment. These are not just alterations, they are designed like that because they mean a better car for every purpose. And every part of the new A40, both external and out of sight, has been conceived with the same idea in mind. We have a look at the inside, a little idea of the seats, and that this is a blue car and kind of like a blue piping around the seats, which looks quite luxurious actually for this type of car, which was really only a budget car after all. It says the back seat is big enough for 2 adults or 3 children. Upholstery is in the toughest vinide sewn in narrow panels to keep it in good shape. Smart touch, diamond pattern panelling on the door trim. Then it talks about new power, and there's a little bit of an image of the engine there. It describes this as a record-breaking engine. Power unit in the new A40 is the latest development of the BMC A series 4-cylinder 948cc engine. And then this sort of record-breaking car, which seems a long way away from an A40 that we're looking at. So at Utah in August 1957, an experimental prototype powered by a modified BMC A-series engine broke 9 international Class G records, achieving a maximum speed of 163 miles per hour over a flying mile. And then moving to the bottom here, it talks about new economy and park it in a tight corner. The new A40 is the simplest thing to park in little more than its own length. So light on the steering, the woman driver can handle it with ease, and the turning circle is only 35 feet. And there is a little demonstration of parking this little car. Rather nicely gives you a nice, and again, a drawing of the speedometer there going up to 80. We've got an oil light, fuel gauge, and sort of like a turn signal indicators. We get a main beam light and an ignition light. It tells us to forget the fuel worries. The A40 averages up to 50 miles to a gallon of petrol. Here is a car that can take you for a 1,000-mile holiday at extremely low cost. When you kind of like see these figures in sort of like the late 50s, doing up to 50 miles to the gallon of petrol, it really shows you that we haven't really come very far, have we, in fuel economy. Then we've got these other little diagrams first showing the gears, 4 forward gears, and it talks about the independent front suspension. So 4 gears, the A40 4-speed gearbox gives a high third gear speed, economical top gear cruising and maximum acceleration in the lower gears. There is a synchromesh on second, third and fourth, so no synchromesh on first. Nothing unusual about that for the time period. A hypoid rear axle gives smooth final drive, allows the floor to be conveniently low, and then we got a little bit of a gearbox stroke linkage type diagram. And then lower down, independent front suspension, independent coil springs with double acting shock absorbers ensure steering of sports car position and first class road holding. Rear springs are semi-elliptic, and there we go, a little bit of a diagram of that setup. Then we fold it all the way up again, and we notice there's no huge specification pages. We would have to go for the full brochure to see those. So the final bit of information, if we zoom in, tells us specification subject to modification or change without notice, as we see on every brochure, even the modern brochures. The Austin Motor Company Limited, Austin Motor Export Corporation Limited, Longbridge, Birmingham, England. Printed in England, publication 1640A, and then again we get this little bit of a stylized A40, and then printed in England again. I'm trying to just get that ribbon in focus. There it is, the British Motor Corporation Limited, BMC. I also went back to kind of like zooming on this, printed in England, but what's that in the middle? Them little, I thought there was like 4 little squares, but obviously they're blocking or, you know, crossing out some of the print there. I wonder what it said underneath there. But there you go, an interesting little brochure for the time period. A very small brochure, you know, you can walk in the showroom, pull that straight in your pocket and walk out with it, but a lot of information in something so small. But that does sadly bring us to the end of today's episode for the Austin A40. Please do share your memories of these lovely little cars if you can, or I love reading your comments, good or bad or indifferent. But I'll also add on here a couple of boxes for other episodes you may want to continue viewing. But don't forget, if you've not done already, please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free. And thank you so much for watching Course Light today. Please do take care. We'll see you again very soon. All the best and goodbye.